Some pain speaks loudly, but the pain Sigma empaths carry is almost invisible, quiet, controlled, and buried beneath a calm exterior. They move through life supporting others, listening deeply, understanding without judgment, yet almost no one realizes the emotional weight they carry behind their steady eyes. They hurt softly, privately, internally. They feel everything: the shifts in people's intentions, the disappointments no one admits, the unspoken tensions in every room, and they carry it without letting anyone see the cracks. Their silence isn't weakness, it's survival. It's the shield they learned to build long before they understood boundaries. Sigma empaths rarely show their wounds because their role has always been the strong one, the healer, the steady presence. They absorb emotional chaos so others can breathe, but they process their own turmoil alone. The world sees their calm, but never the nights they overthink. The world sees their resilience, but never the moments they feel unseen. They don't talk about the betrayals they sensed before they happened, or the heartbreak they predicted yet still felt. They don't show the disappointment of giving their all to people who only offered fragments in return. Their silent hurt becomes part of their armor, heavy, invisible, and deeply misunderstood. Let me ask you something real, something only a true empath can answer. Do you carry pain that no one around you truly sees? Share it in the comments. Your truth may be exactly what another empath needs to feel understood. If this resonated with you, make sure you subscribe to Brainy Empath, where your depth, your intuition, and your unspoken struggles are finally acknowledged. And if you watch until the end, type silent strength, so I know you're one of the Sigma empaths who feels deeply yet carries their hurt quietly. They absorb everyone's emotions but have no one to unload their own pain to. Sigma empaths are the emotional anchors of every room they enter. They feel the heaviness others carry, the sadness hidden behind smiles, the anger trapped beneath polite words. They take in the fear, the confusion, the loneliness, not because they choose to, but because their intuition pulls it into their own heart like a magnet. People come to them naturally, unloading their burdens, confessing their secrets, seeking comfort and clarity. And the empath listens, supports, heals. But when their own heart grows heavy, when they feel overwhelmed, there is no place for their pain to land. They absorb everything, but release nothing. And this is the silent hurt that defines much of their emotional world. They don't unload their pain because they've learned that most people don't listen the way they do. They don't want to burden anyone. They don't trust easily. They don't believe others can hold their emotions without minimizing them, misunderstanding them, or twisting them into something else. So instead of opening up, they lock it in. Their pain becomes a quiet echo inside their chest, felt deeply, expressed rarely. They continue to help others even on days when their own heart is exhausted. They smile when they're breaking inside. They offer reassurance while privately drowning. And because their strength looks effortless, nobody realizes how heavy their emotional world truly is. The tragedy is that Sigma empaths often feel loneliest in the moments they are most needed. They comfort others through heartbreak, yet process their own heartbreak alone. They listen to hours of emotional confession, yet speak only a few guarded sentences about their own struggles. They are the emotional safe space for everyone else, but they have no safe space of their own. And this creates a quiet ache that never fully disappears, the ache of giving endlessly without receiving the same depth in return. But this silence is not a weakness, it is resilience. It is how they survive in a world that rarely understands the depth of their perception. Their ability to carry so much without collapsing is its own kind of strength, but it is also the reason they move through life with an invisible weight on their shoulders. Because while they absorb the world's emotions with grace, their own pain remains unseen, unheard, and held in the deepest parts of their soul. They sense betrayal before it happens, but it still breaks them quietly. Sigma empaths feel the shift long before the betrayal arrives. They notice the subtle changes, affection that fades, honesty that wavers, loyalty that bends. Their intuition warns them gently, like a quiet knock in the back of their mind. Something isn't right. They sense when someone is pulling away, hiding something, or preparing to act out of alignment with the connection they once shared. And although they hope they're wrong, deep down, they already know. The betrayal doesn't surprise them when it finally unfolds. What breaks them is not the act itself, but the loneliness of knowing it was coming and having no one to say it to. They process the pain before the damage is even done. While others are blindsided by disloyalty, Sigma empaths live through the heartbreak twice. Once when their intuition reveals the truth, and again when the truth finally manifests in reality. They watch someone they cared for grow distant, inconsistent, emotionally unfamiliar. They feel the connection weaken, like a rope slipping from their hands, but they don't confront. They don't accuse. They don't demand answers. They simply wait in silence, hoping the person will choose honesty over avoidance, loyalty over convenience. Yet when the betrayal eventually surfaces through actions, lies, or sudden abandonment, the empath feels the quiet echo of a truth they already carried alone. But even knowing it beforehand doesn't soften the blow. The hurt sinks deeper because they gave this person trust, energy, understanding, and they still chose to break it. Sigma empaths don't explode when betrayal happens. They collapse inward. They withdraw into themselves, carrying the wound in silence because explaining it feels useless. Others wouldn't understand how they knew. Others wouldn't understand why it hurts so deeply. So they grieve quietly, letting the pain settle into their soul without showing tears, anger, or blame. Their heartbreak becomes invisible to the world, hidden behind calm eyes and composed breaths. This is the silent hurt no one sees, sensing the betrayal early, hoping to be wrong, being proven right, and then healing alone, because no one truly understands how deeply they felt the shift long before it happened. And though they rise stronger every time, the quiet ache never fully disappears. It becomes another lesson etched into their intuition, shaping a strength that grows in silence. They support others deeply, yet feel unseen when they need support themselves. Sigma empaths are the ones people run to when the world feels too heavy, when the heart feels too fragile, when life becomes too confusing to navigate alone. They listen without judgment, soothe without effort, and understand without needing explanations. Their presence is a sanctuary, calm, grounding, healing. People feel safe unraveling in front of them, safe confessing what they hide from everyone else, safe leaning on their emotional strength. But when the Sigma empath's own heart begins to fracture, when they feel lost, overwhelmed, or quietly hurting, the room suddenly becomes empty. The same people who rely on their depth rarely notice when the empath is sinking. Their silence gets mistaken for strength, their composure gets mistaken for being fine, and their emotional needs get swallowed by the expectations others place on them. This is one of the deepest silent wounds they carry, the realization that they are seen as the supporter, but not the one who might one day need support. They give so naturally, so consistently, that people forget they have limits. They comfort with such steadiness that others assume they never need comforting themselves. And because Sigma empaths rarely show their hurt, nobody thinks to ask, "Are you okay?" They disappear into the background of their own life, providing light for everyone else while standing in their own shadow. And this invisibility stings, not because they want attention, but because they long for someone who truly sees them the way they see others. When a Sigma empath does reach a breaking point, they rarely ask for help, not because they don't want support, but because they've learned that opening up often results in shallow advice, minimized feelings, or uncomfortable silence. They'd rather bleed quietly than explain themselves to someone who won't understand the depth of what they're carrying. So they retreat inward, holding their pain with the same tenderness they offer everyone else. They become their own comforter, their own anchor, their own source of emotional survival. And while the world applauds their strength, they feel the loneliness of it. Yet even in this invisibility, they continue giving, continue supporting, continue being the steady soul others depend on because it's who they are. But beneath that resilience lies a quiet ache. The longing for someone who notices their exhaustion without being told, who offers support without being asked, who sees the empath behind the strength. This unseen hurt shapes them, deepens them, and becomes part of the reason they love so powerfully and hurt just as silently. They forgive silently, even when the wound still echoes inside them. Sigma empaths don't hold grudges, not because they weren't hurt, but because their soul refuses to carry the weight of resentment. They forgive in the quiet spaces of their mind, long before anyone apologizes, long before the person even realizes what they did. Their forgiveness is internal, private, and deeply emotional. They release people not to rebuild the connection, but to free their own heart from the poison of bitterness. Yet the wound, it doesn't heal instantly. Even after forgiveness, it lingers beneath the surface like a soft bruise. They smile again, laugh again, look composed again, but inside, the echo of what happened still resonates in places they don't talk about. Their forgiveness is real, but so is the hurt they carry alone. They forgive silently because explaining their pain feels pointless. Most people would dismiss it, misunderstand it, or justify their behavior. The Sigma empath already knows this, so they protect their emotional truth by keeping it unspoken. They don't confront to make someone feel guilty. They don't demand closure from someone who couldn't offer it the first time. They don't need grand apologies or dramatic reconciliations. Their healing happens in solitude through reflection, acceptance, and a quiet decision to move forward without dragging the past along. But while the world sees their tranquility, they never see the internal scar, the part of the empath that flinched, learned, and changed because of that pain. What makes this hurt so heavy is that Sigma empaths forgive with their heart, not with their memory. The wound teaches them something, reshapes something, hardens something. They don't go back to who they were before the betrayal. Forgiveness doesn't erase the moment they felt abandoned, misunderstood, or taken for granted. It doesn't erase the disappointment of giving their sincerity to someone who couldn't hold it with care. The empath lets go of the emotional sting, but the imprint remains, a reminder, a lesson, a quiet shift in how they love and who they allow close. And so they move on, calmer, wiser, more guarded. Their forgiveness is a gift, but it does not reopen the door. They carry the echo of the wound within them, not as bitterness, but as truth. A truth that shapes their boundaries, a truth that sharpens their intuition, a truth that strengthens their heart while reminding them never to shrink themselves for someone who didn't value them the first time. They detach without explanation because explaining their hurt feels pointless. Sigma empaths don't walk away suddenly, they detach slowly, quietly, almost imperceptibly. But when they pull back, it's not because they're confused or unsure. It's because they've already understood something that the other person refuses to acknowledge. They've seen the shift in effort, they've felt the imbalance, they've sensed the disregard, the dismissal, or the subtle emotional negligence that others pretend is nothing. And when their heart starts hurting, when the connection stops feeling safe, when the relationship becomes a source of silent pain, they withdraw. Not angrily, not with drama, not with accusations. They simply detach. And they do it without explanation because trying to explain their hurt to someone who never noticed it in the first place feels like breaking themselves twice. To the outside world, their silence looks cold, their distance looks sudden, their disappearance looks confusing. But what people don't see is that before the Sigma empath ever pulled away, they tried, they watched, they hoped, they waited for reciprocity that never came, for effort that never returned, for emotional presence that slowly disappeared. They gave small hints, subtle signals, gentle invitations for the other person to meet them halfway, but nothing changed. And so explaining their pain becomes pointless because the hurt didn't come from a single moment. It came from a long pattern that the other person chose not to see. Why explain what was already visible? Why speak the truth to someone who ignored every silent warning? Their detachment is not a punishment, it is protection. It is how they reclaim the pieces of themselves that were slowly slipping away. The Sigma empath understands that emotional availability is not earned by pleading for understanding, but by choosing peace over prolonged disappointment. So they stop checking in, they stop initiating, they stop offering emotional oxygen to someone who never learned how to breathe with them. Their withdrawal is clean, calm, and final. No explanations, no dramatic farewell, just a quiet end to a connection that was dying long before they let it go. And yet the hurt they carry during this process is enormous. They detach not because they feel nothing, but because they feel too much. Detouring that pain into words would only reopen wounds they've already stitched shut. So they leave with unspoken truths, unresolved emotions, and a heart that learned, again, that not everyone deserves to know the depth of what they broke. And that's the silent hurt Sigma empaths live with. The ache of walking away from people they once prayed would understand them, knowing those people never truly saw them at all. They carry emotional exhaustion while appearing calm and unbothered. Sigma empaths master the art of looking composed even when their inner world feels painfully heavy. They move through life with a steady voice, gentle expressions, and a quiet resilience that convinces everyone around them that they are perfectly fine. But beneath that calm exterior lies a heart that has absorbed too much, too many worries that aren't theirs, too many emotional storms they never created, too many burdens placed on them simply because they were strong enough to carry them. Their calmness is not a reflection of an easy life. It's the shield they've learned to wear to survive a world that constantly drains them. Even on days when they are emotionally exhausted, mentally overwhelmed, and spiritually depleted, they look composed because showing their fatigue feels unsafe, misunderstood, or simply useless. Most people never notice how tired a Sigma empath truly is. They see the empath's stability and assume it comes naturally. They see their patience and assume nothing affects them deeply. They see their quietness and mistake it for indifference rather than the truth, that the empath is running on low emotional fuel, holding themselves together with the last bit of strength they have. Sigma empaths rarely show their cracks, not because they're unbreakable, but because they've learned that few people know how to respond to their vulnerability. They don't want pity, they don't want shallow reassurance, and they certainly don't want to explain why simple things feel heavier than they appear. So instead, they remain calm in the face of chaos, calm while bearing stress, calm even when their heart feels like it's carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken emotions. Inside, however, the exhaustion builds quietly. Carrying other people's emotional turbulence leaves little room for their own. They process their pain in silence, sort through their fears alone, and manage their inner battles without witnesses. This emotional isolation makes the exhaustion even heavier because they're not just tired, they're unseen in their tiredness. But despite the internal weight, they continue offering presence, understanding, and grounding energy to everyone around them. Their calm becomes a comfort to others, even when it costs them internally. This is the silent suffering Sigma empaths endure, appearing unbothered while feeling everything intensely, looking steady while their spirit begs for rest, maintaining peace while navigating internal storms. Their strength is admirable but is also misunderstood, and the world will never truly grasp how much they carry because the Sigma empath carries it so quietly, so gracefully, that their exhaustion becomes invisible, even as it shapes them. They heal alone because they don't trust others with their deepest pain. Sigma empaths have learned, often the hard way, that not everyone can hold the weight of what they carry. They've opened up in the past, gently, carefully, vulnerably, only to be met with misunderstanding, dismissal, or betrayal, so they stop sharing. Not because they don't feel deeply, but because their deepest pain requires a level of emotional intelligence and sincerity that few people possess. Instead of risking further hurt, they retreat into solitude and heal in silence. They stitch their wounds in the quiet hours of the night, replay memories others never knew existed, and rebuild themselves without witnesses. Their isolation isn't a weakness, it's a form of self-protection, a shield forged from past experiences that taught them relying on others can sometimes amplify the pain rather than soothe it. Healing alone becomes their default method, not out of preference, but out of necessity. Sigma empaths understand their emotional landscape with a rare clarity, and they know that external voices often complicate rather than comfort. They don't want advice that oversimplifies their depth. They don't want platitudes that skim the surface of their truth, and they refuse to expose their inner world to someone who hasn't proven they can handle its intensity. So they sit with their emotions until they make sense of them. They reflect, analyze, and unravel the knots in their heart with patience that only someone deeply introspective can possess. Their healing is internal, intellectual, spiritual, a quiet metamorphosis that happens far from the noise of others' opinions. But healing alone is also lonely, and that loneliness leaves a subtle ache beneath their strength. Sigma empaths don't cry on shoulders. They cry in silence. They don't seek reassurance. They rebuild certainty within themselves. They don't ask, "Do you understand me?" because too many times the answer has been no. Instead, they create a world inside their mind where they can process without interruption, mend without judgment, and emerge without owing anyone an explanation. And when they finally rise from that internal journey, they rise stronger, not because the pain was easy, but because they carried it alone and still found a way forward. This silent self-healing shapes every part of them. It sharpens their intuition, strengthens their independence, and deepens their emotional wisdom. But the world rarely sees this hidden struggle. They only see the calm, the strength, the resilience, never realizing how much solitude it took to build. And that is the quiet burden Sigma empaths live with, the knowledge that their deepest healing must come from within, because trusting others with their pain has rarely led to anything but more wounds. Sigma empaths walk through life carrying a weight most people never notice, a quiet ache hidden beneath steady eyes and calm breaths. They absorb, they endure, they support, they forgive, all while healing wounds no one else even knows exist. Their silence isn't emptiness, it's strength. Their calm isn't numbness, it's survival. And their ability to rise after carrying so much alone is what makes them rare, powerful, and profoundly misunderstood. If the world knew how deeply they felt, they would never mistake their quietness for simplicity again. Let me ask you something honest. Do you carry emotional pain that no one in your life truly sees or understands? Share your truth. Someone reading may finally feel less alone because of your voice. If this spoke to you, remember to subscribe to Brainy Empath for more deep psychological insights into empathy, intuition, and the unseen battles of the Sigma soul. And if you watched until the end, type "I carry it quietly" so I know you're one of the empaths who feels deeply, heals silently, and rises stronger every time.